All right, so here's what the bed looking like. Over there you can see I threw all kinds of leaves and stuff on top of it before I threw the tarp on to kill off grass. And so it's pretty well killed off. The leaves didn't incorporate and break down as much as I hoped they would over winter, but I guess it's not really a surprise. So I'm gonna get a weed eater, clean this up. I'll be back in a minute. All right, it's gonna be attempt like 5 or 6 to get this video going. Having a little camera difficulties. Okay, so the big reveal, I guess, got messed up. I had this tarp on it all winter long on this garden bed to kill off grass and everything. It was overrun. You can see it's still looks pretty bad. All that was in it, I raked it up. I used this little hand cultivator, tiller, whatever thing you want to call it. Stick in the ground, twist, break roots and stuff up. Got a bunch out with the rake. Took some grass out with the weed eater. Although there's a patch right there I'm going to hit here in a second. And try and clean this bed up some. It was overrun last year with grass. Basically how I had it was all these nails here. I had string going across the nails on that side. So nails, and then there's a matching nails on this end. And I had tomatoes and stuff trellised up here and some onions in the front. And had a cucumber down the end over there. But the problem was all this stuff broke or something happened to it. Whatever ended up happening. All my tomatoes ended up on the ground and I kind of just let them vine all over after that. And this place got overrun with grass. So I put the tarp on it to kill it all off. I was hoping it'd be a bit more broke down by now, but it's not. But it is what it is. It's Easter Sunday. Not a lot of places open for me to go buy tons of compost. So I'm going to plant with what I've got. Got to get this SHTF. For it to be end of the world, I wouldn't have a garden center to go get stuff from. Anyway, my composting just thrown on the ground pile is just thrown on the ground. I do have a trash can I've been composting in, but the bottom of the trash can's be where all that's at, and everything else is newer pile on top. So I should have really dumped it in my other bed, but anyway, so we're gonna get these onions going. It's time to get started. It's past time to get started. So I'm gonna take a seat here on the ground and we're gonna break out these Walla Wallas. Okay, Walla Walla onions. Pick these, they're a popular variety. They make large onions, sweet onions. Mrs. SHTF has an issue with onions. The sulfur in it is too strong, I guess, and causes her to get ill. She has a little bit of allergic reaction to that. So garlic, onions, doesn't sit well with her. So I picked a sweet onion variety to try and minimize that in hopes if I can get some onions and get something that she can tolerate. So I'm going with these. Now, real quick, when you're talking about onions planting, there's a couple things to know about onions. First, there's onion sets and starting onions from seed. I started these from seed in this French onion dip container. Poked some holes in the bottom, threw seeds in there. This is what I got. I don't even know how many that is. Although I do want to count them. You should get larger onions this way, but you do have to plan ahead. I've had these growing in that greenhouse for a while. And I don't think I've shown that video yet, so there's not going to be much of a tour left because I'm getting most of the stuff out of the greenhouse into the garden. But that's going to be that. There's another way you can plant them called onion sets. It's a pretty popular way of doing it. It's like I don't have any to show, but they're like little tiny onion bulbs. And they're grown, cut, thrown in a bag, dry, and they kind of go dormant. You get them, you plug them into the soil, and they take off and they grow. And they'll grow well, but they're already grown and then stop growing and start growing again. So they're more interested in going to seed at that point than they are making bulbs. They will make some bulbs. They're easy to use, but you don't get as big onions as you do from seeds. And this is, of course, a cheaper option, although onion sets are very cheap too. But you'll get 100 seeds in a 25-cent seed pack from the Dollar Tree. The other thing about onions that you need to keep in mind if you're starting them from seed or growing them from bulbs is about long day versus short day. And there's also intermediate day. And basically what that means is, like, you know, the whole thing, if you go up to the North Pole, then you have 6 months of daylight and 6 months of nighttime. Well, the same principle holds at lower latitudes as well. You have longer days the further north you get. So in the Midwest, my day is longer here than it was when I was growing on the Gulf Coast. It's because of that, you have to pick onion varieties for that particular location. So their bulbing process starts depending on the length of the day. So short day onions grow in the south and long day onions grow in the north, and then there's an intermediate range where you could grow either or. These are a long day onion, I think, or actually maybe they're intermediate. Either way, I'm in the Midwest, so I need an intermediate or a long day onion. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at this tape measure and see what we got. We're looking at about 6-inch spacing. So I want to go, let's pull this out here and set this down for a second. So I'm going to go a few inches away from that. And we're going to start our onions probably about, I don't know, I'll give it a few inches from the end, and I'll stick my onions in the corner here, and they'll go 6 inches apart. So let's go ahead and dump these out. Let's see what kind of onions we got. Break them apart, kind of tease them apart a little bit. Look at the nice root development I've got. And easier if I didn't have to do this one-handed. Well, I'll just massage these onions till they come out. Onions are fairly tough plants. Actually, they're very tough plants. They're kind of indestructible. It's where they're able to break them apart and do this, or pull them out of the ground, clip everything off, and let them dry up and turn them into onion sets, because they are very tough, durable plants. So I can just massage these apart. In fact, I'll do that and I'll come right back. All right, so I'm back. So I was able to tease these onions apart, and this is what they come out looking like. Allium family, and just has some roots on the bottom, and there they are, nice stack. So let's go ahead and start getting these in. Let's give me a few here. These will grow pretty big and fast. So let's make me a little spot. Jam this onion. Maybe we'll hold jam this onion in there. And then, so that was about 1.4 inches, so let's come over to about 1.10 inches. So about 6 inches apart. Stick another one down in there. I don't know if I'm getting all this. You have to invest in a tripod one of these days, right? Okay, so it's 10 inches, so let's go down to 16 inches. Poke a hole right here. Take my next one. Stick it down in there. All right, so I'm going to do that all the way across. Probably take a couple of rows. I'll be back. All right, so they're all in there. This bed looks so terrible, it's hard to even tell they're there, but they're there. So I didn't count them. I should have. And it's hard to even tell where they're at because this bed's so terrible with grass and junk sticking up. But hey, we'll come back and we'll check on it in a couple of weeks and we'll see where we're at. Now, as far as some fertilizing, I should have dusted the bone meal in there and inserted it in. That's okay. We're gonna give a light dusting. There's bone meal on top, and that's because it's got a lot of phosphorus in here. Where's the number? It's like, this is a little bit of nitrogen. There it is. 2% nitrogen, 14% phosphorus, 15% calcium, which is going to be good for tomatoes too, and like no potassium. That's why I got some regular organic stuff over there. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of this and just kind of sprinkle it in. That should help them out too. All right, sprinkle in some bone meal and made a bit of a mess of it. It's very dusty. But when I water that in, that should go right into the soil. I'll add some of that for my tomatoes as well, but this time I hopefully won't forget to mix it in the soil first and just kind of rake it in, as opposed to sprinkling on top like I'm doing in this case. And let's just take some of this. Just gonna throw a little bit of this on top. This granular stuff will take a little while to break down. A couple of handfuls in this bed, and that'll break down into here too. And that's just some genetic stuff I got from Walmart. 356, the vegetable and tomato fertilizer. organic fertilizer, so it's not too not super strong, and it's a powder or granular type, so it will take a little out of the nutrients to be absorbed because the bacteria has to break it down first. But that's what I'm adding as far as fertilizer, and we'll see how these onions do. We'll come back and check on them in an update in a week or two and see if they're standing up and starting to grow. All right, that's it for planting onions. Remember, if you want to do some onions, they take a while to grow and bulb. They're biennial, which means if you want to save seeds, get an heirloom variety, and you got to keep at least a couple of them, at least one or two, overwinter, which they do overwinter real nicely. They're very cold hardy, and they will go to seeds the following year you plant them. So if I want to save these Walla Walla seeds, I'll have to save an onion in the back or two overwinter, and then come back in the spring. Then they'll start flowering. Or you can do it by seed this way, or you can do it by set. So either way, good luck with your onions. I think onions are great. To me, they're absolute must, SHTF or not, because I need that flavor. Plus, they have good nutrition. Well, that's it for onions. Signing out. I want to add one more thing while I'm watering in this fertilizer. Onions, get them good soaked down. I do have some ones from last year. I had planted too many seeds. I done too many seeds and cut through some wherever I had space. And so I have some examples to show. But onions, I guess, probably, don't know if I would count that as 100% like, oh, you have to have an onion to survive. But you probably get pretty tired of rice and beans after a while. And it's going to soak this in real good. I want that fertilizer mixed in, washed into the soil. I want these to get a little water, help them get over their transplant shock if they have any, which they probably do. They got teased apart and the roots are pretty entangled. But I just want to be able to show how easy it is, and we'll see. I'm going to talk about that game now. We'll see if they actually grow, be big, decent sized onions, or if it makes me look bad. But hey, you learn from successes, you learn from failures. So let's count on this one being a success. But even if it's not, as long as we're learning, as long as we're growing, may come a time where everybody has to do this, like World War II with the Victory Gardens and the Great Depression. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of those other ones that I grew last year that have come back up in this, now the springtime, and they'd be kind of like an onion set because they were grown small. It's kind of basically died up back, and now they're back. But they should go to seed, but they're not the kind, in fact, I don't even know what they were. They were just some onion sets. I think, no, they were just onion seeds, just random onion seeds I had got, I think, from a feed store maybe. And so I assume because they were local, they probably are the right kind to grow in this area, but maybe not. They didn't do bad, I guess, but they weren't great, like I'm hoping these are. They made some medium-sized onions. So let's go check that out. All right, here we are. So these are those onions I planted. I don't know if you can see in there really well. They were like a red onion. You'll see the red part sticking up. So we're gonna pull some of these up at some point and see what I've got. They were kind of crammed in here. It's an afterthought because I ran out of room planting them anywhere else. So I stuck a bunch of onions down in this little flower, whatever you want to call it. And that's where they've been. And here they are, come back. But if nothing else, I get plenty of green onion tops off of them. So it's not a total waste. So even if that's all you got space for and you can't grow for bulbs really, you can still grow for green onion tops. And the same thing holds true if you grow a green onion or you grow an onion from the store. You'll basically just get the top. They're not going to grow any new onions, but they can grow like this. You put them growing in some soil and you'll get a bunch of this. Tops like this. And these tops are delicious. I mean, I chop them off and cut them up and put them in my food. And works out pretty good for me. I like the flavor. But I wanted to go ahead and add that extra bit in there and say, if you like growing onions, SHTF Garden, follow me. Talk about what you're growing, whatever we got going on. Like, share, subscribe. Curious about what's going on in everybody else's vegetable garden. SHTF garden, whatever you want to call it, backyard garden, raised bed garden, every kind of garden, because every kind is growing something. Until next time, have a good growing.